Welcome to Horror Makes Us Happy, the podcast where we ask the question, what is it about horror that makes us happy? Your hosts are Steve Becker and myself, Chris Whitman, and you can find out more about us at our website, horrormakesushappy.com. It's very difficult to remember. You know, it's the same name as the show, but you added .com on the end. And no dashes, because I've learned the hard way. No one likes dashes in a URL. It's too confusing. Before we get started, a little info for you and listeners. This is the trigger warning. We're going to be talking about messed up stuff, which could involve anything from murder, rape, child abuse. We'll be talking about dark and macabre things. So if that's not your cup of tea, go listen to a boring podcast. But if you do like that stuff, listen to us talk about all the fucked up shit.
Like that.
I like rolling into the curse words in the disclaimer because it's kind of official, you know, halfway through it. I think we got it out of the way, and then I can say fucked up shit.
Like that.
Like that. Coming up, we have quite a few guests, actually. We had a little bit of a hiatus, a lot of RL stuff going on, and Steve put out the feelers, and we got a few bites, like a lot. All of a sudden, we had nothing planned, and then it's like, bam, you're good till August, which is good. It's a good thing.
Of course, 4 of them, all from the Slumber Party Massacre podcast, so thank you to them.
Yes, and thank you, Lacy and Rebecca, for hooking us up with them. Including what?
Including our current guest.
Yes. So coming up, we're going to be speaking to director Eduardo Sanchez, authors Danger Slater, Autumn Christian, and Sarah Langen, podcasters from the Slumber Party Massacre podcast. I can talk today. Carly Sunfelt, Nikki Williams, and Heather Powell. And another member of that podcast who we have with us today is Miss Lacy Liu. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure.
Yeah. Rebecca spoke very highly of you guys.
Oh, she was a great guest. She was a lot of fun.
She was. Good fun.
Did you talk about Dick's pre-show with her?
No, we did not. Missed out on that opportunity. We'll have to do another episode all about dicks.
Bring her back just to talk about that. I'm sure she'd love that.
Yeah.
So in this interview, we'll be asking 3 sets of questions covering your childhood, teenage years, and adulthood to find out what it is about horror that you like. The idea being that if we interview enough people, we might start seeing some interesting common themes. Also might find some unexpected ones, and that could be cool too.
Mm-hmm.
Coming at the questions from multiple angles like this sometimes helps us remember things that we had forgotten. But that said, it's not meant to be a therapy session. So if there's anything you don't want to answer, just say, I'll pass on that one and we'll move on.
Well, I'm not a pussy.
Starting with child.
I have one, but I'm not one.
Right.
Duly noted.
Just throwing it out there.
Okay.
Disclaimers and such.
Yeah, right. So starting with childhood, what are some of your earliest memories of scary things?
Like scary things or like scary movies?
We'll get to both, but you can start with movies if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's like ever a point in time to where like I didn't watch horror movies. I went and seen Child's Play 3 in the theater when I was 3. So I'm aging myself there. I just watched
Child's Play 3 the one with the military school or the one with the factory? The factory was 2, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
This is the one where they switched out Alex Vincent because he obviously wouldn't have been old enough to go to military school. But yeah, I love Child's Play 3. I actually watched it last night. So that's fun. Yeah, and I just remember watching like all the Nightmare on Elm Streets, the Halloweens. I probably didn't understand like half of what was going on when I was a kid. I just knew that like I liked watching horror movies. Like they had that comedic element to it a lot of the times. And I don't know, just watching people get slashed was fucking fun.
Cool.
Yeah. And then as far as scary things, my grandma's house was haunted.
Okay.
Ooh.
Nothing ever happened to me though, but like everybody like always tells the stories and I don't know. Yeah, it was haunted. A lot of creepy stuff happened there.
We talking like poltergeist type stuff, like furniture moving on its own?
Oh, yeah. Like they would hear, like, so my uncle, one of the stories that they tell is my uncle would play poker with his buddies, like down in the basement. And my mom and people were upstairs. And all of a sudden they just heard nobody was downstairs. They just heard like this big like clink, like a bunch of clinks. And they come down and the table had been like flipped over and like poker chips were like everywhere. Like somebody would have had to like thrown it, you know, and like there's no entrance into the basement, you know. So, and then another time they heard a door slam downstairs in the basement, and they went down and they were trying to open the door and they couldn't open the door. So they ended up having to climb through like a window.
Wow.
What had happened was all the furniture was pushed up against the door. That's why they couldn't get it open.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. And then my mom, I guess when she was a teenager, had like a bunch of like pop cans and stuff. And like the ghost was like always cleaning stuff. And she's like, I wish it would clean my room. And so she like came home one day and all of her pop cans were put into like a pyramid. Yeah. So
I
like,
wish the ghost would do my laundry. Like just keep it going.
Right. But yeah,
no,
so it's like things like that. Yeah, like I never experienced anything like my sister did. I'm sure she'll talk about it when she's on, because Nikki is actually my sister, my real sister.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, she'll probably talk a little bit about Grandma's house being haunted.
Cool. So you mentioned movies. Was there anything else like cartoons or books or anything like that, or is it just mainly movies for you?
Well, like I loved Tales from the Crypt. I watched that like every Saturday. I love the cartoon as well. I think it's still on Tubi for those. If you haven't checked that out, definitely should because it's fun. As far as books, I was reading chapter books at the age of 3, so I was like into like all the Goosebumps, R.L. Stein. Christopher Pike was my favorite, though. I think like R.L. Stein kind of overshadows him, but I think Christopher Pike had a better setup of books. They're not as cheesy as, the Fear Street, even though I love Fear Street, but Christopher Pike just got the element of horror better, in my opinion. Like it's not as camp.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You mentioned that you saw Child's Play 3 at 3.
Yes.
Do you happen to remember anything before that, or is that the first thing that you remember?
I remember seeing Nightmare 4, the Dream
Dream
Master.
Warriors? Dream Master.
Okay. Yep. And part 5, I remember like the motor, like I just remember like seeing like bits of it like when I was a kid. I remember seeing the motorcycle scene, Dan, in part 5, and it like haunted me. Like I don't know, that's like one of the creepiest, like that movie's not good, but I think that's one of the creepiest deaths in like the entire franchise, probably just because it like freaked me out as a kid. Also, Stephen King's It, the miniseries. I was so afraid to like go into the shower because when he pops up, when he's in the shower with Eddie and he just like comes through the drain, like I was so afraid of the freaking drain.
Yep.
Like, I don't know what it is about horror, but like they want to like scare you in your places of comfort. Like, why is Freddy coming when you're trying to take a bath? You have Pennywise popping up out of the shower drain. Like, I was traumatized.
I think you're definitely onto something there. Yeah, it's probably something that horror writers and producers do intentionally. Like, so what's a safe place and how can I make that not safe?
Right. Right. Like, it's creepy. Like, I did not want to take a bath or a shower, but I did. And he was like, but I would like sit at the edge. So like I was nowhere near that
far away from the drain as possible. Like,
yes. Like, bye, drain.
At least give you a running chance.
Yeah.
You mentioned this motorcycle scene in Nightmare 5. What about it? What scared you?
I still have this day, I've never ridden on a motorcycle. I've had like people ask like, hey, let me take you for a ride. I'm like, fuck you. Like, I'm not letting the mechanicals of the freaking motorcycle come into my veins and like rip my face off. Like, pass. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
I refresh my memory on this one, and I'm looking at the pictures now. I remember this shit, and I'd say it's probably a body horror level version of upsetting, or why it's so influential. Because like the parts and the wires of the bike go into him, into his arms, into his face. It's like that body horror violation level thing. Yeah,
it like creeped me out. I don't know, and like, well, because he was also a returning character, right? So, and not only on top of that, but he gets Alice pregnant, and so he was going to be a dad, and then like, hey, Alice, do you want to make a baby? I don't know, like, it's but like he's a returning character, so I think I have like such compassion for like when returning characters come back and then they just kill them off. Like, it breaks my fucking heart. Aww. Like, I have bawled at Scream 2 when they killed off Randy in the theater.
Any particular reason why you connect with returning characters?
Like, I just feel like I'm invested in them, Like,
yeah, they're returning characters.
Yeah, they feel like friends. Like, especially if it's a movie that like I love, and I obviously love Scream so much. It's my favorite movie of all time, not only horror. But so yeah, like in Randy, he felt like, I don't know, relatable. And I mean, he knew all the movies, and that's kind of like how I felt when I was watching. And I just remember like bawling in the theater, and there was like a bunch of high school. There was a bunch of high school kids in the seat in front of me. We went opening night, and I'm like bawling. I was like, "This is too graphic. It's so brutal." And they just turned back and just started cracking up, laughing at me. I was like 10, so. But I mean, I don't know, like I felt like somebody I knew was dying, and it was dramatic and sad, and yeah.
Yeah, Chris was like, well, because you get attached, but the exact reason that I asked is, like you said, there were other kids turning around looking at you, and they weren't offended by it or bothered by it. So
yeah,
clearly there was something there for you that wasn't there for them.
Yeah, I think they were just there to like watch a slash and hack, and I was like completely invested in like not only Sydney's story but Randy's, Gail's. Like it was. I love like continuity. Like I think that's what I love so much about the Scream is like it's all just one story. But like you can intertwine other stories, and that's kind of where we're getting into now with 2022 and then the upcoming 6th film. But I mean, it's all one cohesive story, and no other franchise has done that.
It's come up in other conversations we've had before too about if you're not invested in a character or you're not invested in some element of the movie, then typically it's not only not going to be scary for you, but no emotion, joy or anger or any of them.
Right.
The whole point of the emotion comes from the fact that you were somehow invested in something.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not watching something that you love, like I just don't see like the point. I don't know. Like, I mean, I love horror, but I don't love every horror movie, obviously. Like, I'm like, my level of investment into that franchise, though, like, I will die on that hill. Like, I don't know. Like, it just speaks to me. Like, it feels authentic. I love the writing. I love the whodunit aspect. I think we need more slasher whodunits. I am here for it. I want more of them. There's just something about the psychological aspect of who's behind the mask that, I don't know. It's like, I love, like, my brain, like, thinking while I'm watching.
Okay. The reason I had asked whether or not there was something that you remember before Child's Play is because typically when talking to somebody who's been introduced to horror at such a young age, some people, but not everybody has a defining line where before this line, the movie has scared them. And then, afterwards it was enjoyment. And I was wondering whether or not they were always enjoyment for you, or was there like this dividing line where they were actually scary up until a certain point?
I don't know if I've ever been like scared. I think The Stranger scared me. But like as a child, no, I think it was just pure enjoyment. Like I don't remember a time where I never not enjoyed it. And I think a lot of the thing is like you are scared when you're little. And I think you're always just like chasing that high for the rest of your life to feel like what you felt when you were a kid watching these movies.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You mentioned earlier that you had watched them from a very early age. So I wanted to ask about that too. Like, were they just introduced to you in a safe setting, like watching movies, chilling out with the family, and everybody around you is safe people like family or friends? And so they're laughing at it. So, to laugh at it. Like, it sounds like from the very get go, you had a positive attitude about it. So there's never really any negative aspect of, oh my God, this is scary. It's kind of like in a safe, contained, this is scary, but still fun space.
Yeah, like I think, I never really thought about that. But yeah, like my whole family is like movie lovers. And I remember, I don't know, like there was just something that like made me happy about watching it. Like I was surrounded by other people that enjoyed it as well, like with my family. I remember like, for example, so like Ghost, that's not a horror movie. And I remember being so young and watching Ghost and like crying, and I remember like my mom and my grandma kind of were making fun of me for it. And I was just like, am I not supposed to be crying? Am I not supposed to be doing this? But like when we watch other movies and stuff, like, I mean, obviously like that was really young. That came out in 90. So it probably was around 91. So I was like 3 or 4 when this happened, and I remember thinking like, well, I'm obviously not supposed to be crying. So I'm just supposed to be like having a good time. Right. So I mean, Ghost is one of my favorite movies, by the way. But yeah, it was more enjoyable to watch other movies with them than it was like, say, dramas or tragedies, and like, yeah. So I think maybe you're onto something.
Yeah, maybe.
So you don't remember a time when you were scared by them? Well, actually, I wanted to question that because you had said the scene with the nightmare or Nightmare 5 with the motorcycle scene. So did you not feel scared by that? What would you say your emotion was then?
I would say like it's freaky. Like, does that make sense? Like it's freaky. Like I'm seeing something that I'd never seen before. Yeah. Like I'm just like, but like, I wouldn't say that like I was scared. I don't know. It like creeped me out.
Okay.
Like, is there a difference between being creeped out and scared?
Yeah. Being disturbed, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe the level of.
My dreams are more scary than horror movies. So like, but it's probably like if I fall asleep watching certain horror movies, and I think that was one of them, I've had dreams about Freddy Krueger killing me. So like, so maybe that's like this. I think that's what I take away from like being scared with the movies is like I wasn't scared like watching, but like you have dreams and it's terrifying to like actually because I know I'm not actually in that situation, and I think I always knew that. Like it's just a movie, but when I'm having them visiting me in my dreams, like and you put yourself into that,
it's real.
Yes, and it's creepy and scary, and like I just remember like Freddy Krueger popped up. Like I was probably like 6 or 7 when I had this dream, and like in my dream we were having like a big 4th of July party, and like Freddy Krueger just like popped up, and like he's like, "Who wants to roast a weenie?"
Freddie was always good with the puns.
Yes, like that literally happened in my dream, and like then he's just like chasing me around with like hot dogs on his fingers. It's so fucking stupid now that I'm thinking about it, but I was scared when I was a kid. I was like, if I ever told that story.
Coming to get you.
He wants to roast a weenie. Oh God.
So you mentioned your whole family loves movies, but do they specifically love horror, or is there anybody in the family that specifically loves horror, or is it just that they love movies in general?
My whole family, we all love movies, like every genre. Certain ones speak more to others, but my grandparents, they were like, oh God, they would take VHS tapes when they would rent them, and then they would tape them onto the DVD. So they had like, they plagiarized or pirated or whatever it's called, piracy. But yeah, I mean, VHS tapes don't exist anymore. And this, so I think it's okay. It's safe to talk about this now. Right. But they had like thousands of movies, like, because you could tape like 3 movies on one VHS, right? A blank VHS tape. So they had over thousands, and like their wall was just covered with like VHS tapes, and they had them labeled and numbered. And so it was just really cool because when I'd go to my grandma's, I could just go in and like scour it. Like you could find any, and they were all numbered. So it was basically by the year that they had came out. So, I mean, we don't have like, there wasn't a way to like alphabetize them, because there's 3 different movies on each tape. So, but it was just, I just remember like for hours, it was basically a Netflix scroll, just looking through, and it was just a magical time for me. And I mean, I discovered some of my favorite movies because we would have like family movie nights, and everybody would get to pick a movie. And I don't know, I just remember like my uncle picked The Warriors one year. So I probably would have never seen that had we not had some of these movie nights, with these movies that were picked. They would get mad at me because I would pick 2 of the same movies every time. And the movie that like I always chose was Heathers and Drop Dead Fred. So... and
Drop
then
Dead Fred is a fucking classic.
Thank you. Oh. And then when I got older, obviously I kept picking Scream, but like we draw out numbers, and everybody would hope that mine would get picked last. So we're like, we're not watching this again, Lacy. So.
Come on. Can you really hear Heather, my love, there's a new sheriff in town enough times ever? No. No, you cannot.
Fuck me gently with a chainsaw. Like, right?
Classics.
Yes.
Let's see. Okay, so everybody loved movies, but there was nobody that specifically loved horror, just you?
Oh, no, like my sister, my mom, my grandma, like everybody loved it. Like most of our theme movie nights were horror movie nights.
Oh, okay. Cool. Did any of these movies or books introduce any fears that you hadn't had before?
Okay. I guess I lied. I have been scared by a movie. Yeah, my mom showed me this when I was probably like 8 or 9. I don't know why she would show it to me because it's the scariest movie of all time. I mentioned this on like every podcast that I've ever been on, but it's the only movie I think that has like truly like scared the shit out of me, which that would be The Entity. Have you guys seen it?
I don't think I have. I know I've heard of this one. It's older?
Yeah, it's like 83, I want to say.
82, apparently.
82, okay.
I recognize the cover.
Yeah, it's Barbara Hershey. It's basically, and it's based on a true story too. So I don't know how much is true, but in this movie, Barbara Hershey, she's a single mom, and this entity, this ghost, it starts attacking her, and you can't see it, and it ends up like actually raping her. And I don't know, like, I think there's just something so scary and like, because I'd heard all these stories about my grandma's house being haunted too. So like, the things that scare me are the things you can't see. And to be raped by a ghost is probably the most terrifying thing that, I don't know, like, I have sleep paralysis. So, which if you guys have never had, it's, you're like awake, or you're like asleep but awake at the same time, but you can't like move or scream, and it feels like you're weighted down. So like, I don't know, it just really, really fucked with me.
I've had that. I know Chris has said he wishes he has had.
No, you do not. No.
Yeah, that came up on one of our earliest podcasts. I'm just like, I am jealous, because I don't know what it's like. And yeah, our guest was like, no, you're not. You don't want to know.
No, you don't. No, it's literally terrifying. Like, I used to have them more frequent. It seems like when I take naps during the day is when I have it the most, ironically. But so I tend not to take naps anymore. But yeah, I have an episode probably 3 times a year.
Oh.
When I used to get it a lot when I was in my early 20s. Haven't had it since then. And at least for me, I think it was related to whatever position I was sleeping in, maybe affecting my blood flow somehow. But that's the only thing I can think of. But I could definitely see how that could scare you. And how that could tie in with being afraid of things you can't see, which also ties in with the ghosts,
right?
In this movie. So what I'm interested in at this particular moment is, you thought of that when I asked if there was anything that had triggered any fears, like lasting fears for you. So has that affected you in some way? That, like, is there a lingering fear that sticks with you?
I mean, like, I've never like had that happen to me, but
obviously no.
And it's also the score in that too. It's just very menacing. Actually, I watched Poltergeist for the first time in a long time last year, and I watched it like late at night by myself with the lights shut off, and like I was like, I'm fine, because I was doing it for a podcast. I can't talk either. Podcast prep, and so I was like, I've seen this like a bunch when I was a kid. This movie is not scary. It's like PG-13, or like, I mean, it doesn't have. Yeah, it's a safe movie. But ironically, watching it this time as a 33-year-old woman, I'm watching it by myself, and like, it's dark, and like the blue hues from like the TV, and like I felt like I was gonna get sucked in. And no, there's a scene that and it's kind of like, there's a lot of parallels to that movie in Nightmare on Elm Street, which Nightmare on Elm Street actually came out after that. So but so obviously, like dreams and things like that are something that's always like messed with me. But Poltergeist, this one I didn't think, but I'm going back to The Entity right now, because there's a scene where the mom in this, the entity in the Poltergeist, it like smacks her and throws her on the bed, and it's like pushing up her, that shirt with the numbers on it, right?
Yeah.
And like, it's very reminiscent of The Entity, and like, I like haven't watched that in so long because it messes with me. But I would like to actually like dive into it and talk about it like in depth on a podcast at some point, because obviously I'm traumatized by it. But it definitely like took me back to that. And that night I had sleep paralysis after watching Poltergeist. So clearly there's some. Okay. So clearly there's some underlying issues here.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, though. I always kind of caught that, too, when watching Poltergeist, like, especially when rewatching it as an adult and you know about such things. Like, this ghost doesn't seem like it wants to necessarily just hurt this woman. That's a little fucked
right.
up.
Did you participate in Halloween when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Favorite costume?
Oh, man. I went as Minnie Mouse a lot.
That's a scary costume.
Right. No, did you guys tell jokes for Halloween? Did they make you tell jokes? Like,
no.
To get your... Yeah,
we always just did trick or treat. That's...
That must be an Iowa thing. So we would always come up with like jokes to tell, and you'd have to tell a joke in order to get your candy from the house that you're at. So they're like, you got a joke? And so, yeah. So my joke was, I don't know why my family thought it was funny for me to say, but they're like, have you heard about Mary? And they'd be like, no. I'd be like, Mary had a lamb and the doctor fainted. How fucking stupid is that? But then there was other...
gave birth to a lamb?
Yes.
Is that the joke? Okay. Yes. Okay.
I don't know why my family thought it was funny for me to say. So, but then there's other jokes like, why do the people go to the graveyard? Because they were dying to get in or something like that. Like there was like horror things ones too, you know? Yeah. So I don't know. Like there's like, we have like on video, like VHS family home videos of us like going trick-or-treating. I
texted Chris a good one the other day.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it was, Chris?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Something along the lines of, why do vampires like to bite necks? Because they're a necromancer.
Yeah. I expunged that from my memories because that joke was so bad.
I don't blame you.
No, I do remember hearing that was a part of Halloween in some places, but no, I also didn't have to do that when I was a kid. Thank God.
No, I'm jealous. That would have been more fun than just trick or treat. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
Okay, so least favorite costume?
Okay, so we were poor one year, and my mom was like working.
Just one.
No, seriously, it was a 1 year. My parents got divorced, and then so that was a rough year. So we couldn't afford a costume this year, and so my uncle was going to take us out trick or treating, and I had to like make my own costume. So I just I was like going through like my grandma's stuff, and I found like this blue like silk robe, and I found I had a play wand, so I just like made my cheeks like really rosy and threw my hair up in a bun and said I was Cinderella's fairy godmother.
No, okay.
Yeah, that kind of works. That's all she asked.
Yeah. And I just kept, and it snowed really bad that year too. So, but the robe was like so long, right? Like, I mean, I'm a little kid, and the robe is like way past my legs. And I just remember like I was so excited running up to this big ass house, and it like snowed, and like it was really snowy, and I tripped over the rope and like face plummeted into the snow.
That will definitely make that an unfavored costume. Yeah,
100%. Like, yeah.
I'm just picturing like the child that's like all happy about something, and then they get something they're not expected, and it's a 180-degree turn to crying.
I straight up biffed it. Like I think I like yeah, and the snow was like hard too.
Mm-hmm.
So like that hurt. Yeah.
What was it that you liked about Halloween? Was it the act of dressing up, or I mean, obviously getting candy, but was there anything else in particular that you liked about Halloween?
Oh, I love Halloween. Like October is my like month. Like I celebrate starting in September actually now.
Yeah.
Making up for lost time.
If Christmas can start in like November 1st, Halloween can start in September.
Right? Yeah, like I like to do like 60 days of Halloween.
Yeah.
For the record, I'm against Christmas starting in November, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just like it. It's like a feeling, like, and like the leaves are changing colors, and I don't know, like fall's cool. But like AMC would always be playing Halloween movies or scary movies, and there was just always horror movies on, and that's a huge reason why I love Halloween is because I get to just binge horror movies. I mean, I do that anyways, but now it's somewhat acceptable. And I think it's cool that, other people who, like some people save it for just that time of year. And I think it's cool when you see those people like on social media now, they get very engaged. And like people that don't normally engage with my post, like they'll get way more engaged during Halloween. And I think it's cool.
See, there's a good way of looking at it. We had a previous guest that said they actually didn't like Halloween because
it was Rebecca, as a matter of fact.
Was that Rebecca? Yeah. She's like, everyone's a poser and they only dress up and do Halloween-y stuff this time of year and they suck for that. But that's a good way of spinning that is, yeah, that happens, but it's good that these people are getting exposure to Halloween when they wouldn't usually. So,
Yeah, like they're getting in the spirit.
Not everybody is this way, but there are a lot of people who are very, the word is compartmentalized. They have different things, different boxes that they put things into, and it's now is the time for this. Okay, now I'm putting that away. Now is the time for this. Okay, now I'm putting
very
that
by
away.
the book. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then there are other people who are just like, no, I'm just like this, and that's it.
See, I couldn't watch Christmas movies 24/7. But I'm not a
huge fan of Christmas.
I do that in December. Like I go hard for Christmas movies in December because I just like to embody it. So I understand. So maybe I'm a poser when it comes to that, but I love Christmas too. But like, because I'm not going to watch those years round, but I have my time of the year where I do that.
I watch Christmas horror movies in December. And yes, you said doo-doo.
Well,
yes.
Doo-doo.
There's so many Christmas horror movies. I mean, Garbage Day. Garbage Day.
We just covered those on Slumber Party last Christmas, actually.
So good.
So moving into teenage years, what were, like, if we were to pick the top 3 things that come off the top of your head for teenage years, what would be the most impactful things there?
Oh, I got to work in a haunted house.
Cool.
Which helped me letter and theater. So that was cool. I got to dress up as a vampire bride and hide in a coffin. And when people come, I would put my arm out and freak them out. So scaring other people, that was cool. Like, I'm like literally just like putting my arm out and it's like scaring the living daylights of people. And I'm just like, you pussies. But like that gave me joy. So that's got to be a big moment. Let's see here. I remember like I would get to leave school. Like I would leave high school early to go see a matinee of movies with my grandparents. Like I would just dip out and go see horror movie matinees. I remember going and see Hostel with them.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I don't know, that's a highlight reel for sure. And there's just something like you're not supposed to be doing something and like your family like doesn't care either. Like, oh no, you need to stay in school, but here my family is like pulling me out to go see horror movie matinees. So
that is a little strange. We can come back to that. What's next?
Oh man. Well, I remember like getting like stoned in this kid's attic, like in high school, and they're like, Lacy, you like horror movies, so bring some over that you don't think we've seen. So I remember like, we got high, and I brought over Sleepaway Camp. And it was literally the funnest watch ever. Like I'd watched it, like I'd seen that movie since I was a kid, but so that's one of the first movies I always show to people because that ending is so epic. And they hadn't seen it, and it was like literally like we were just laughing, having a blast, and then when that moment freaking happened, they're like, "What do you mean?" Like, like they're like, "Am I just too stoned?" Like,
wait, what?
Yeah, it was a moment, and so I love showing people movies that they haven't seen that I love, and then get like genuine, authentic reactions.
Let's see. Okay, so worked on the haunted house, got to enjoy scaring people. All right, so going back to the leaving school early to go watch horror movies. Yeah, that's a little strange.
Why is that strange?
Not entirely strange. This is adolescent. It's teenage years.
Well, I mean...
I was like 17.
I'm not talking about the age thing. I can't remember my family ever taking me out of school to go do anything, much less that.
Well, they didn't actually take me out of school. I should probably preface with that. But they're like, hey, we're going to go see this movie at, 1 o'clock. If you want to go, then, like, figure it out. So,
yeah, it's kind of implied. Like, we're going to go see a movie that happens to happen when you're supposed to be in school. If you should so happen to show up, not going to say anything. Just, there's a movie.
That's exact. Yes, that's like, so, I mean, like, the day was almost over. I mean, school got out at 3. And like it was like PE that I missed, so who cares?
Yeah, exactly. You're not missing anything important. It's like skipping homeroom if it's your first
Period,
what is
yeah.
it? Yeah. I just think it's funny that you went to see Hostel with your grandparents. Like, did they know what it was when they were going into it, or were they like, "Holy shit, what we weren't ready for this"?
No, like I'm telling you, my family loves horror movies.
Okay.
You know,
Props to your fam.
yeah, like we would go see every horror movie together, and you know, like, and if you weren't there, like you felt so fucking left out because they're all talking about it, and like,
Right.
you know, it was a special time, you know, like talking films with my family. I think that's probably why I ended up podcasting later in life, you know, and writing reviews on movies because I don't know, like that's like the fondest memories that I have with them.
All right. So aside from family, did you have any friends that were also fans of horror?
Not to the level that I was. Like
Not
I
yet,
had
anyway.
Yeah, not until Facebook, honestly. I mean, I had friends like they were always like, "Hey, Lacy, bring the movie to the slumber party. You got all the good scary ones, right?" Like it was that kind. Like I was that friend, but like
Yep.
it felt like. I mean, I enjoyed doing that. I enjoy showing movies and seeing like the reactions. As I said, like that's always something that's going to be instilled in me. And
You were Scary Spice.
no, actually, I went as a Spice Girl for Halloween. In the 7th grade, I was Baby Spice.
Okay.
Well, you know, you got to be different than who you normally are.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's the whole point of a costume.
Well, I still don't think I'm Scary Spice.
Not Spice.
No, like that's like the worst thing you could ever say to a girl. I'm sorry. Like nobody wanted to fucking be Scary Spice. Nobody. Like that's evil. like that's evil. Everybody wanted to either be.
That's kind of why I picked it, because you're the one with all the scary movies.
No, I get it, but like nobody wanted to be Scary Spice. Like, and I don't even think I was her though. Like there were so many facets of me. Like I know like horror, like I said, is a lifestyle and it's definitely mine. But like growing up, there wasn't, aside from like my family, there wasn't like that person or the friends that like be like, oh my God, let me go in depth about this movie and why it's so fucking awesome. Nobody wants to hear me talk about that, like, because they're not interested in it, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's like it was like a sideshow act going to a slumber party and showing a movie that like we're gonna talk about, but like just in that moment, like so that was like a highlight reel. Just because that was the best, that was my favorite part of the slumber party, and then like playing the games that were like spooky, you know, and doing like the spooky things. But aside from that, I love how like that's why I did the Slumber Party Massacre, is because there's so many horror elements in a slumber party that most people probably didn't know unless you've attended one. And so
I always thought it was just pillow fights and I'll stop there.
Well, we have a segment called Pillow Fight.
Nice. Yes.
Ouija
board.
Yeah, Ouija board.
You know, Lives of Feather, Mr. Sandman, Cat Scratch.
Did any of the media you took in your teenage years introduce any fears that you hadn't had before?
No, I think that was all like early on. You know, I don't think anything. I think everything. By the time I was a teenager, nothing could have scared me at that point. You know, like I'd seen it all that time. Yeah. You know, I would say The Strangers came out when I was 20, and that was a little different to me because that could actually fucking happen. You know, and I don't think I had watched like a lot of that type of stuff. Like it always been like stuff like, well, I mean, I guess Scream could technically happen, but like I wouldn't be stupid enough to let it. But I mean, I think, you know, so I don't know. The Strangers, it spooked me at 20. I would say, you know, I was coming out of being a teenager then. So that would be probably the closest thing that I could say that was semi-new.
Let's see. Okay, so I know about the sleep paralysis thing, but other than that, did you have any recurring dreams in your teenage years?
I used to, like, it's not a horror dream, if that's okay. Sure. I used to have a dream where I was, like, getting married. And by, like, when I get, like, but I never knew who I was marrying. So, like, I would get to the end of the altar and then I'd wake up. So, like, I never knew who I was marrying.
Weird.
I mean, that sounds like a fear.
Well, I had a terrible marriage, so yeah, it makes sense. I went through a pretty bad divorce. So.
Okay, a little more dream foreshadowing then.
I'm telling you, my dreams are like...
Have you had any dreams about Florida sinking into the ocean?
I have not.
Just asking for a friend.
I have not.
Okay. It's going to happen anyway. We're doing great.
All right. So, yeah, right. So, adult years, you've mentioned The Strangers. Anything else jump out to you as impactful in your adult years?
I think I started to appreciate like just cinema as a whole more as an adult. Like the technical aspects, like just the appreciation for storytelling.
Yeah.
And I remember watching The Mist on my 21st birthday.
Oh, wow.
And like the story is obviously, the ending's way different than the story, right? Yeah. So I just remember like that ending. I don't think my jaw has ever been so far on the floor.
Right?
I was like, they just fucking went there. Oh my God, this is amazing.
Right? Like you watch it as an adult and it's not that disturbing because you've watched so many other horror movies that hold their punches. And then you just see that and you're like, holy shit, they went there.
Yeah.
And credits. That's it. Wow.
Yeah. Like you could have just waited 5 fucking minutes. Like,
nope, gotta kill them all.
Oh,
gotta do it.
Man, like it was gut wrenching, but but that's why I love movies, like for those little moments, they're far and few between. Yeah. But when they happen, man, it's such a high.
Yeah.
What was gut wrenching about it?
Like, I don't know, like it maybe because like he thought it was best to, kill his son and save him from this world. And I don't know, like that's like the saddest part of it. Like I don't know how anybody could just shoot their kid, like period. Like I would rather have the creatures fucking take me than to have to do that myself. So like it was just that moment. Like it's heartbreaking. It's like, I mean, I don't know what I would do in that situation, but I don't think that I would ever pull the trigger if I was to have a child. Ever. Like I would shoot me and then let my kid figure it the fuck out. Like,
which almost sounds worse.
Yeah, it kind of does. Like if the options are either quick and painless. Well, not painless, but
Well, hey, 5 minutes later, the military showed up, so he would have been just fine. So I would be the hero.
You would be correct. You're right. Yep.
You wouldn't know that though.
Well, no, but I would assume that there might be hope.
Well, if there might be hope, then why would you need to kill yourself?
Well, I mean, he's probably gonna end up killing himself now, anyways, because he just killed his fucking kid and he didn't need to. So, that's but I don't know. It was just that moment, and like it feels so hopeless, and then there's all this hope after the, it's just it's gut wrenching.
Yeah,
I think what I was getting out of it would be loss.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think also jumping ahead, like jumping the gun, no pun intended.
Literally.
Regret?
Like making decisions when, I don't know, you don't necessarily need to. Like,
yeah, I regret.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't even know how it, like, came to that. Like,
yeah.
Any others that jump out to you as being impactful in your adult years?
Paranormal Activity.
Okay.
Yeah, that, because it's obviously similar with the theme of what sees you or what you can't see scares you. Mm-hmm. And so that movie triggered my sleep paralysis as well. And then I got like really pissed when it came to like part 3 because they over explain it. And to me, like, not every fucking movie needs exposition.
Leave it ambiguous.
Like, well, I mean, it became about witches and cults and shit. And like, that's not ghosts. Nope. Like, I don't know, like fucking Toby. I don't know, like it was just so much scarier when it was just the this presence that was haunting this house and you didn't know why.
Well, particularly with it being something that you can't see, I'm guessing there's some sort of lack of control aspect there that's scary to you. I mean, you can't protect yourself from something you can't see. Or, I guess you could if you could hear it or something like that, or smell it. But the lack of the visual sense, I mean, that's a very big, important thing for anybody who can see. Obviously, if you're deaf or something like that, there are other senses that compensate. But for somebody who does have eyes, that's a big thing.
Yeah, you know what? You're 100%. I am one of those people that has to be in control of everything. So, yeah, and I can't control what I can't see. You're right. So that is scary to me.
Possibly off topic, but do you have any idea why control is such a big thing for you?
I was on my own a lot. Even though like I talk about like this family dynamic of watching movies, I mean that was pretty much like the only time that like I really hung out with my family. Like my mom and my sister were like really bonded together, but like I would ask my sister to like play a game and she'd tell me no, so like I would just go and like play like Uno by myself, like literally, or like Sorry or whatever. Like I would play games by myself, so like I just learned how to get like really good at games, and like so when she would play with me, I'd just beat her ass.
Okay.
Well, that's what you get for not wanting to play with me.
Yeah, there you go.
So she would get pissed. So that's probably why she never wanted to play anymore. But no, like, so I was by myself a lot. My mom was, she was a really big drinker, and my parents divorced at an early age. And, then my mom met my stepdad, and they just kind of like hung out together a lot, and my sister, like, we were far enough, like, we're 3.5 years apart. So, I mean, that's a pretty big age difference growing up. Like, I'm still in junior high and she's in high school. So she wasn't around a whole lot, like, and I was always grounded because I ran my mouth. Can you tell?
I can relate to almost everything you said so far. Sister older than me, 3.5 years, early divorce, and always getting in trouble for running my mouth. Yep.
Wow. Yep. Yeah. So like I was grounded, so I'd be at home alone by myself a lot. And so like I feel like I kind of just took care of myself. So like I don't feel like I ever needed somebody to take care of me, I guess. Like I've always been able to take control of my own life and make it what it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, when you're alone like that, it's not even necessarily that anyone is trying to take control from you. It's just not even a question. It's like, this is just the state I'm in. I have control. This is life.
It's the default.
So yeah. So having something that challenges that is challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like anytime anybody like tried to like control me to some degree, like it's not gonna work. Like you cannot tell Lacy Lou what the fuck she can do.
I had something similar in that I moved around a lot when I was a kid. So I also didn't have a lot of friends, and I learned how to entertain myself. And I guess the best analogy I can give is to explain something that happened when I was older in my 20s. I moved back to Florida, and I was hanging out with a group of people who all lived within like a 5 square block area of each other. But they had spent their entire lives in that 5 square block area. And it was very strange. Like they all had dated each other. They all had rented rooms from each other's parents, converted garage type thing. They very rarely ever went outside that 5 square block area, except as a group, maybe to go to Ybor City or, the place where there were bars or something like that. But they were very insular, and there was a lot of drama, who's dating who, because everybody had dated each other at some point. And like when it didn't go well, I was just like, well, fuck you guys. I'll just go 5 minutes down the street and find some different group of people to hang out with. Like I moved around so much that like this kind of shit didn't bother me at all, because I understood that I could just walk down the street 5 minutes and go find somebody else to hang out with. It like it's not a thing to me. So
yeah.
Let's see. So The Mist, Paranormal Activity, and The Strangers. I don't think we talked much about The Strangers. What was it about The Strangers that bothered you or scared you or affected you?
That it was more grounded in like reality horror, that it could happen at any time. And the movie's like sad in itself because like she turned down his proposal, but clearly these two people like love each other. So like it's a love story within a horror movie as well. And just having somebody knock on your door, like, I don't know, like, do you guys not get like when somebody knocks on your door, like you get a little jumpy?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Right. See, it's a thing.
Oh, yeah.
And you never know who was behind that door. I mean, that's what they invented peepholes for. But at the same time, that still doesn't save you, you know? Like, is Tamara home? No, bitch, she's not. Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, it's chilling, you know? And just, like, these masks that they have, like, it's creepy. Like...
The Baghead is, I think, the creepiest one, just because of the simplicity of it. It's just... I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to worry about my appearance. I just put something over my head so I can murder you and stab you to death very slowly.
Right. It's a little Town that sun it down, but I appreciate the callback. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that movie's creepy too. The Town That Dreaded Sundown. Oh man, that fucking what is it that he plays? The
trombone.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like fucking, I never will look at Mary Ann from Gilligan's Island the same way. Like.
I mean, you got to give him points for originality. I don't think anyone else has stabbed someone to death with a trombone.
No, while playing it.
Yeah.
Oh, sad trombone noises.
Wah, wah.
Nice.
You're going to hate me here, but I have to go back and do this again. So the name of the movie was The Something at Sundown, but I couldn't make out that something word.
The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Have you not seen it?
I have not.
What do you mean?
No.
What?
So fair warning, or I guess disclaimer. I should have maybe given this at the beginning. So Chris is the horror fan of the two of us. I'm more of the psychology buff. So that's why we're a good pair for this, because I kind of rely on him for some of the stuff that I miss, and I bring the psychology side of it.
Well, that's cool. That's an interesting dynamic for sure.
So let's see. By adulthood, you had started, I'm guessing, making friends with people who were also fans of horror. You mentioned Facebook. Obviously, you're part of this podcast that there's 5 of you, so you got some friends now that are outside your family.
Yes. Well, I mean, I always had friends. Like, don't get me wrong, they just weren't into horror.
I mean, that were fans of horror.
Yeah. I mean, like, there were like moments to where, like, I told about the sleepaway camp, you know, and then like I had a girlfriend named Sarah who we used to go to Blockbuster when we were little, and we just rent all the horror movies. But like, I don't think she was like as into it as me, you know. But I think she enjoyed watching them, but I don't think it was like I always knew, I was just like, why do I love this genre so much? And then like Scream came out, and it just like changed my whole like viewpoint on like everything.
Actually, you know what? You're right. We didn't talk about Scream very much in this call yet. But you said that was like your favorite movie, wasn't it?
It is my favorite movie, yes. That and Donnie Darko.
Which we haven't talked about either.
All right, okay. We'll do them chronologically. Scream, then Donnie Darko.
Okay. You know, I had never seen a film like Scream, and it was so self-referential of all the other films that I had watched leading up to this. I don't think you can just like start with Scream, because it's such a love letter to, you know, horror films in general.
Right. Yeah. Like if you haven't seen things like Nightmare or Freddy, you got to watch those first, because you're right. There's references. Right.
And Psycho and Halloween and, you know, I don't know. And like, I just love it. Like it's that opening 5 minutes, you know, and the fact that it's, you know, America's sweetheart, Drew Barrymore.
Yeah. And then they kill her off. Spoilers for those who haven't seen it. I'm sorry. It's been like, over a decade now?
25 years.
That's right.
26. Yeah. But yes, I don't know. There was just something. And like I said, I liked the psychology of it, to where you don't know who it is. And like, even though it's like blatantly obvious rewatching it back, but I mean, at one point you think it could even be the Fonz. So, you know,
yeah. At the time, I think it was almost like an answer to the challenge. Like, oh, horror movies are boring and predictable. And Scream came out and said, hold my beer, watch this.
Yes. And it was interactive, like without being like interactive. Like, you know, it's interactive within your mind. And I think that's why I love them so much. You know, I like to, like I said, I like to see if I can outsmart the, you know, and that one I did not, I think I definitely did not see 2 coming. Like the 2 killers.
Yeah.
And what was the other one that you said was the big one?
Donnie Darko.
Donnie Darko. Okay. How old were you when you saw that one?
I was a teenager. I was 17.
Okay.
And And I just remember watching it, and like a lot of people like debate whether that's horror or not. I think it has enough horror elements to it.
It's got a horror tone to it. Yeah. I mean, the soundtrack, the lighting.
It takes place on Halloween.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You know, it is a Halloween movie.
I mean, just the rabbit costume alone. I mean.
Yeah. Frank the Bunny, which I actually interviewed him. He's super cool, James Duvall.
Oh, no shit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did the Doom generation come up at all?
No, we talked a lot about May.
Okay.
Donnie Darko, SLC Punk. He was promoting his new film at the time. It was Beast Mode. There was, what was the other one that we talked? We talked a lot. Well, I talked probably a really long time about Donnie Darko. I think that was the majority of the interview, to be honest.
Dang. Oh my God. He was an SLC Punk. I just remembered that. We should get the beer, dude. That guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What's funny that you brought up May, because like we were talking earlier about how we were trying to talk to Lucky McKee, and he was involved with May.
Yeah, no, very cool dude, super chill, like, and he provided me like a lot of insight. If anybody wants to hear that interview, it's on Skip to the Loo. Sorry, I gotta plug it. It's the first interview that I ever did for that show, so it's episode number 1 for Skip to the Loo.
Cool.
Gonna have to watch that one too.
But he provided so much insight into one of my favorite movies, Donnie Darko. Like, I fangirled over that interview. There's just a lot of cool, fun behind-the-scenes facts. But it was interesting to, like, see what his perception of the film was versus, like, how I perceived it. Because the thing that I love about that movie is every time I watch it, I pick up on something that I didn't notice before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the mark of a great movie for me.
So, other than the multiple layers, new each time stuff, what else did you like about it in terms of the horror aspect? Or
I do love that he basically saved everybody by going back in time. I'm assuming you guys have seen this movie, right?
Yeah, it's a superhero movie.
Kind of.
That's one of the theories. There are a lot.
But
one of them.
But what I love is after, like, he goes and does that, like, everybody's like, and they have that scene with, Gary Jules' Mad World playing at the end. And basically everybody's like coming to terms with like who they are, just laying in bed.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful scene. Like it's like one of the best endings of any movie ever. And it just hits you. Like different than like The Mist, obviously. But I keep saying I don't know. There's just something about like having like, did they like, I want to know, like I try to like go in through like narrate what they're thinking as they're laying there. Mm-hmm. Is that weird to do? I don't know.
No.
But obviously like you have Patrick Swayze, who is another America's sweetheart. This is a completely different kind of role for him to play. And, it's tragic too. But like, he's like holding he's just like laying in bed crying. And like, could he see what was happening, or was he like ashamed of himself? Is he going to change? And then you have the two teachers, Drew Barrymore, and I can't think of the guy's name right at the moment, but and they're like pretty much like laying opposite each other. And it's kind of weird. Because you didn't actually expect them to be together. And then you have, James Duvall holding his eye, with the drawing of the bunny and everything. Like, could they see what had happened previously? Or I don't know. Like, I love talking about it. It's like one of those movies that like I can just go on for hours about, like each scene breakdown. And you also have a really weird cameo from Seth Rogen in this.
You mentioned one thing I wanted to question. So you said it just hits you. What is the it you're referring to there?
I think like just like, because a lot of the times like when I'm laying there in bed, I'm thinking like about my day, things that I've done right, things that I've done wrong, and I don't know, it's that moment to where you're self-reflecting, and to see it displayed on the screen as they're doing that, I guess it spoke to me.
Any idea why?
Well, I think, everybody questions, like, a lot of the times, like, could I have done this better? Could I have spent more time with this person? Could I have said something different? Should I have said this? And I don't know. I think self-reflection is really important. And I don't think a lot of the times in films you actually get to see the characters, like, fully self-reflecting. And I don't know, I just related to it. Laying in bed at night, like you don't get to see it, and I think it was just portrayed honestly and beautifully.
I like that you use the word relate, because I'm sitting here sort of typing out my thought, because I'm struggling to find a word. What I wrote was related to her own, and then I put ... not insecurity, but question mark. I'm trying to find a word there. They're relating to your own something.
Yeah, I'm trying not to do it. I mean, it's relating to own obsession with acceptance from others. I don't know. Because, yeah, I do that too. You just, at the end of the day, you're like, God, did I do this good enough? Did I do that good enough? What was my grade for today? Was it a C? Was it B plus, maybe?
Yeah, well, and I mean, at this point, the only time like I really socialize with people is when I do the podcast, because I work from home. So I feel like I'm like, so did they read my text wrong? So like,
did I come across as an asshole? Oh, shit.
Should I have put a smiley face after I said that?
Yes, always put a smiley face, but not a smirky smiley face or a winky smiley face, because that can be misconstrued the wrong way too. Just keep it generic, just plain colon close parentheses. That's it.
Yeah, no, I understand the things that you're questioning. I'm just trying to find the right word to describe the act of doing so. And that word seems to be escaping me. And I feel like there's a better word for it, but I just can't find it.
Is it honey badger?
Halloween is... yeah, right.
Is it Pollard?
Halloween... Lingham. Halloween is an adult.
All right, that's when it got fun again. I love Halloween. I love the parties. I love the booze. I love the themed. It's like I said, I celebrated 2 months. But I love all the haunted houses, like making, cookie haunted houses, making haunted cookies, carving pumpkins, having all, like, I'm not a pumpkin spice basic bitch. Like, I don't drink that shit. I'll eat pumpkin pie, but like, I never got like pumpkin spice coffee is fucking disgusting. I don't get it.
So basic.
Like, so basic. No, I really don't get it. I love like the look of a pumpkin, but I don't like the taste of pumpkin spice. I don't know. Like, I don't drink coffee anyways, but yeah. I'm trying to think. No, the parties are always just what's really fun. I love the haunted houses, but I feel like you should like switch up which haunted houses you go to, because if you just keep going to the same ones, it's the same fucking thing every year.
Yeah, yeah. You can only be scared by the werewolf popping out from the corner animatronically so many times.
Well, and if you go to the same building every year, you get to learn the layout of the building, unless they do real, set design where they're rechanging how the rooms are built and stuff like that.
Well, we have one where you crawl the entire time underground in a basement, which is really cool.
Weird.
Yeah. The scariest thing in a haunted house for me, though, is being chased by a dude with a chainsaw. Like, the movies don't scare me at all, but there's just something about that fucking noise.
Mm-hmm. And they're coming after you.
Yes, I'm like, get out. I'm like, go away, please don't touch me, please don't touch me. But the scared, like, I don't know if my sister will tell the story when you have her on, but we went to a haunted house, and this was as an adult, mind you. And I don't even like this movie. I think it's terrible, but there was something about, all right, so Nightmare on Elm Street remake. The dude's wearing that Freddy costume, not OG Robert Englund. He's wearing the fucking he's wearing
Jackie Early Haley.
Yes, which is not scary to me at all, but apparently it was this night. And I don't know, all of a sudden he just like I was walking and he just takes his claw and puts it right in front of my face, like, so he's like behind this counter, but it literally like made me freeze. I could not move. And I was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And like I'm like leaning back into my sister. And I don't know, like maybe like I thought the knives were real. Like if I leaned forward, am I going to like fall and die and plummet to my death in this haunted house with these knives for fingers? But like, I don't think it was necessarily like, I think it was the hand that was the scary part. But like, so I don't know what happened, but like I ended up like unfreezing and like having to go under him because he wouldn't move his fucking arm. And so as I'm walking away, he goes, sweet dreams. And like, obviously, I was like, why would you do that to me? I have fucked up dreams, dude. That's
because it's Freddy, duh.
Obviously, I have
sweet dreams.
Like, obviously, I have a big correlation with Freddy freaking me out, I guess, in my dreams. So,
yeah.
I don't know. It didn't trigger me that night, but
that's good.
But that was scary. So, but I mean, that's what the point of Halloween is, and I think, you know, like, I feel like when you're scared or like you have fear of anything, like, that's when you feel the most alive.
Yeah,
at least for me.
So, last couple questions here that we like to ask, wrapping up the call, are over your entire life, not just any particular area, and they're not just about horror. Could be any genre. I'm going to ask the first two questions because they could be the same movie or same response to both questions, or different questions or different response. But what is your favorite movie, and what movie would you say you've watched more times than any other?
That's the same. Okay. That's Scream. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of figured that's where this was going to go.
I'm trying to think of like the second one that I've seen the most, though, because I want to give you something. I don't know. It was, the Cable Guy's up there for sure.
That's a good one.
The comedy of The Cable Guy?
Yeah.
Well, it's a comedy, but I think it's also like a dark thriller, a dark comedy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bit of a single white female kind of, you know, crazy obsession thriller kind of thing.
I think it was way ahead of its time.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But this one's special because back in the day, we used to take family road trips to Minnesota and to go to the Mall of America. And we got there like on a Friday night, and I remember watching Joe Bob, and the people under the stairs were on and watched that. And then my stepdad's like, well, I want to watch a comedy now, you know?
People Under the Stairs is a comedy. What are you talking about?
I don't know. And I mean, it is, but it's not at the same time. Well, I mean, like, he's not into this kind of, like, he laughs at me all the time about it. But this was when you could rent movies that were like still in theaters, but like you just had to pay a little bit more. But like only this could happen at like hotels. Like it was pay-per-view, I guess. Yeah, and so he rented The Cable Guy. And I don't know, I loved it. I remember just like, I just remember being like enamored with it. Like I felt like I understood it better than anybody my age did. And I knew, because I was one of those kids who sat in front of the TV and watched it. And because of this guy who is watching all of TV all the time, like he doesn't have a real friend. And that's why it's so hard for him to connect with people in real life. So when he is trying to connect, he understands that, you know, instead of just watching movies and TV all the time, that, you know, he doesn't want anybody else to turn out to be like him ultimately. And that's why somebody's got to kill the babysitter. And he's trying to do the right thing at the end, but nobody actually realizes that in that moment, I guess. I don't know. Like I said, it's way ahead of its time. And like he's trying to kill the satellite, you know, to make it so people aren't so addicted to TV. And you have this moment to where throughout the whole movie, like there's this, people are so focused in on this trial that is happening with the Menendez brothers or whatever, that's played by Ben Stiller. And Ben Stiller actually directed this. And I believe so. Yeah. And so he so the whole world is like paying attention, like trying to find out what the verdict is going to be for this trial, right? And as Jim Carrey falls on the satellite, like everybody's like so like enamored with these things that are going on just because it's on TV, right? And you know, then like as it's getting ready to read the verdict, which doesn't really make sense because verdicts usually aren't read at night, now that I'm thinking about it. But at this time, that was when it was happening. And so
suspension of disbelief. Yeah.
Yes. So he ends up killing the satellite, and so nobody knows what the verdict is across the world because the feeds have been cut. And the dude ends up picking up a book, and then you see like all the bar patrons just like start talking to each other as opposed to watching the TV. And I don't know, I think there's something really special about that movie.
Definitely something about the social versus antisocial.
Yeah, it's like an underlying message
for sure.
Which, like you said, you could relate to because you had been a bit of a loner in some regard.
100%. Nobody understood me. So I think I related to Jim Carrey's character for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So common threads about what kinds of horror that you like: cannibalism, occult, metaphysical.
Slasher, psychological.
Okay, so Scream.
Well, it's not just. I love all right. As much as they fuck with me, I love a good ghost story. Incident in a Ghostland's a great movie.
It is.
That movie's fucked. I liked The Last Exorcism.
I was just talking shit with the Scream reference.
No,
Psychological slasher sounds accurate.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get them. They're far and few between, and that's why I enjoy them. Like April Fool's Day is fucking phenomenal.
I still need to watch that.
What?
I know. I'm terrible.
Do you know how it ends?
No.
Go watch it today. It's April.
All right. Okay. Still counts.
Do that instead of listening to my podcast.
I'll do both.
Okay.
Must be very important then.
HD power activate.
Well, I don't want it to get spoiled now if you don't know how it ends. Like it's a.
Oh, do you mention it in your podcast?
Not in that first episode. We do mention it in another episode though.
Okay. So slasher, psychological, and ghost story. We kind of already asked this question, but I'll ask again just to see if how it phrased changes anything. But do you have any idea why it is that you like those things?
I just feel drawn to it. I like things that I feel like I can, I was going to say achieve. That's the wrong word altogether. Like I don't want to achieve to die by a ghost. I think that I like grounded horror to where I feel like even though ghosts, like a lot of people don't believe in that, I still think it could happen. So the things that draw me into those is if I feel like it can happen, that's what I'm gonna gravitate towards watching.
Mm-hmm. So the things that I was seeing is sort of themes of our call is the introspection, which I think kind of ties back to what we were talking about, you being a bit of a loner and just having time to be alone and think.
Mm-hmm.
And other than the slasher and the psychological, I was keying more in on the ghost stories. We talked about, being afraid of the unseen and losing control. Again, going back to the loner stuff. Would you say that's a stronger component for you than the slasher, or do you think it's more slasher?
Like for enjoyment or for fear?
Yes.
I would say enjoyment for slasher, fear for ghosts.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if we've asked this question, but what do you enjoy? What's the fun of the slasher?
Oh, like so many unlikable characters, and you're just gonna see them fucking bite it. Like I mean,
Schadenfreude, a little bit of Schadenfreude there.
I don't know, like there's so many, but then like you also like it's the emotional aspect of it too, that like sometimes you care about these characters and then when they do die you're like no, like, and then like there's always that one person in a movie that you just like can't wait for them to fucking die, right? So like take for the Friday the 13th reboot, one of the most unlikable characters, Trent,
Oh yeah. I love how he just screamed like a little girl when he fucking just before he died too.
Yes, and like it's so like I don't know, there's something about like fulfillment there.
Yeah. Well, so when bad characters die and you enjoy that kind of goes back to Control.
Right.
You're enjoying that. When good characters die, the emotional response. The phrase emotional response reminds me of something we talked about earlier. I'm scrolling up here just to see if I can find what that was. Unless you remember off the top of your head.
Pollard. Sorry, I had to get one more.
There was something that we talked about that related to an emotional response from... Oh, it was Donnie Darko. That's what I was thinking about. The emotional, like at the end, you were talking about how it was going through to see the characters' responses.
Oh yeah, the self-reflection.
Yeah. The emotional response of the characters to what had happened.
Yes.
The emotional damage.
There you go.
It almost feels like it would be another tangent to go off into to talk about what you get out of the emotional connection to the characters.
Endorphins and serotonin. I mean, that's...
Well, she kind of talked about it earlier in the call, which was to say that, and I think what I had said at the time was that, if you don't emotionally invest in any of the characters, then it's just, there's no emotional response to the movie.
Look, if you don't emotionally invest in characters in movies, you're a fucking sociopath. Like, what are you even doing?
Well, I think that probably goes to, I didn't really put the correlation together, but that's probably why the Cable Guy is so up there for me as well, is because he's so invested in like the TV and the characters and,
and you can identify with that
100%. Like, you see yourself in these characters. Like, what would you do differently? How would you put yourself in these situations? Like, and I feel like when I was growing up, nobody was as invested into like what I was watching doing. I loved like Dawson's Creek and Buffy and all of that. Like, I used to like stick fake vampires with pencils, like like jumping around and like pretending that they existed. But yeah, I just feel like I've always like my reality is TV and movies, like that's just part of who I am. And, when I did get married that I briefly mentioned earlier, like my whole wedding was like the soundtrack of all my favorite movie songs and TV shows, so like it's a very much a part of who I am. And I don't think that's something that I think it's a power to me. And I don't know.
So now that we've kind of narrowed in on some of the things that you enjoy, the last question is sort of why horror? Because couldn't you find some of this stuff, like you just said, what would you do differently? But can't you find that question in movies that are not horror related? Like particularly drama often puts characters into positions where they then have to struggle with the position they're in. You know what I mean?
Well, Steve, not in a drama can you see the most hated person's throat get slashed.
Nah.
That kind of answers what I was thinking of. What I didn't want to, I like to let the guest speak for themselves,
right?
But when I ask what would you do differently, different to what, and it's the what that's different in horror movies. It's the situation in a horror movie is not the same as the situation in, say, a drama.
Well, I feel like that's not necessarily true. I feel like in horror movies, you get the best of every genre. It can be a horror movie, can be all of those things, any other kind of genre. Okay. It can be action, It could be romance, it can be comedy, it can be dramatic. I mean, I think you get that in no other genre can do, and plus you get all the bloody deaths. So
right. It's all that plus some.
Yeah. And I mean, you get that all. And I just feel like the horror genre has the very, and like, I wish it got more recognized. It has the very best of like,
That's a good answer to that question, because you're absolutely right. Like, horror can still be horror and include aspects from all other films, but you can't really go the other way around. Like, it can't be a romance if you have someone's throat being slashed open. Now it's a horror. It can't be a buddy comedy if somebody gets, I don't know, impaled through the anus to the mouth on a spike. Now it's Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah.
Last question. Considering the theme of the interview, is there anything that we haven't asked about that you think is relevant to talk about?
Oh,
maybe something that came up to your mind during the course of the conversation that didn't come up?
No, I would just say that this has been therapeutic.
That's the idea.
Yeah, no, this was cool. I'm thankful for Rebecca for mentioning to do this, and you guys for having me on.
Our pleasure.
It was actually fun reminiscing about some of these things I haven't thought about, like that stupid Freddy Krueger dream. Yeah, no, that's a lot of shit to think about, to be honest. Hopefully I was entertaining.
Definitely.
Very.
So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's one more dream that I might have for you guys. I don't think so, though. I think I probably went there already.
Dreamed out.
Hopefully this does not trigger my dreams. I mean, now I have a feeling I'm going to be attacked by a pollard.
I hope it does.
I will let you know if Freddy Krueger attacks me with a pollard.
Well, before we end the call, do you want to pitch anything on the way out?
All under the Cut to the Chase feed. We have the regular Cut to the Chase podcast. We have the Slumber Party Massacre podcast. We're coming out with, episode 16. We just recorded, we're in our Girl Talk segment. We talk about random drunken nights. And the Pillow Fight segment, we debate what is the best underrated found footage film. And then in our feature presentation, what was the movie we just covered? I don't even remember it now. Shit. No, I do too many podcasts, I swear. I'm trying to remember what the feature presentation was. I don't remember it right now, but it was fun. And then I just did, over the weekend, I did a 24-hour movie marathon. And I'm still in the middle of my marathon. I decided to extend it. But we are going to be podcasting on all the movies watched throughout this weekend. So there's some definite fun ones in there, like The Rage Carrie 2. So it was just a random pick, like Risky Business is in there. So like all random, a lot of horror, but yeah, like right now the one that I am paused on is The Little Girl Down the Lane because I've never seen it. So I'm excited to see how that turns out.
Okay. Well, we'll put together a bio for you and we can link to whatever you want on there. So we'll get together with you offline. You can send me links to the podcast and all that kind of stuff. Right on. Well, I appreciate you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Our pleasure. Yeah. So thank you to you and to anybody out there listening. Please do come visit us at horrormakesushappy.com. We've got a list there of people we'd like to interview, and if you can help us connect with any of them, please do so. If you'd like to have us add anybody to the list, let us know. There's links there to merch and Patreon and all that good stuff. You can buy us some coffee. Just let us know how we're doing. Spread the word. Thanks.